VikesNow. I am Dustin Baker. We are here on Friday night, the eve of Week 17, Packers at Vikings. It's not quite for all the marbles, but if you want the purple team to have home field advantage throughout the postseason, it's close to for all the marbles because the Vikings have to win the next two games, and bada bing, they would have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. I'm here with Sal Spice and Janik Eckardt, two mainstays of the show. Sal Spice, how was your Christmas? How are you?
Everything is good. Honestly, we're here. It's 10 o'clock. So,
Mhm.
as I told you, I come alive in the nighttime. So I'm here for it. And I think I've just been so excited for this game Sunday that it's been hard to really think about anything else. So I'm doing great.
Yeah, the point spread has been very strange. It opened at two, then it flipped to the Packers by a point and a half, and then now today it's back to the Vikings as the favorite by 1.5. So
What
they're all
changed?
I think it's the money being bet on Green Bay, and so
Okay.
I think they have been fluctuating because there's no I don't think Vegas really cares about Jair Alexander, and
Right.
Harrison Smith being back isn't going to move the point spread by points back and forth. So I think they're just being goofy with where the money is. Janik Eckardt, the boss over Purple PTSD. How are you this fine evening?
Oh, pretty good. Looking forward to the game.
Yep.
Gonna be gonna be the first playoff like game.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they have a really wild stretch here because they're guaranteed to play three more games. We know that much. None of them are going to be one shred of easy unless the Lions rest their starters, which they've already said they won't do. So every game is murderer's
Yeah.
row, all on the line. Assuming the Vikings beat the Packers this week, it's just kind of a stepping stone each step of the way.
And you guys, I just got a ticket like 4 hours ago.
Oh, really?
So I'm going now. I
Oh,
just got even I got it for free actually. So lower level. So I mean, it's on.
you got to sit by yourself?
No,
No.
with a friend, but
Okay.
he's like, I don't have anyone to go with. I'm like, fuck, I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah, problem
So
solved.
yeah, problem solved. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's gonna be even a decibel louder because Sal Spice is in the house.
Yeah, we got to drown out the Packer fans that evidently will be about 25% of the crowd.
That sounded low to me personally.
Yeah, that's what I kind of expect for any Packers game is about that percentage or more.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate that statistic is because it was from vividseats.com and
Hmm.
I don't know anyone who personally even purchases their tickets for Vikings game from vividseats.com. I purchase tickets, multiple times a year and I've never once purchased one from vividseats.com. So,
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe they're stirring the pot. Maybe they're underestimating it. The thing I want to do tonight because the next few shows are all going to be about the postseason and hopefully home field advantage. So I want to revisit some of our favorite moments from the season. I've asked each of you to give me your top five moments of the Viking season to date. And well, hopefully, maybe you didn't. Hopefully you ranked these. If you did, we're going to start at the bottom of your list. And then when we get to the number one moment in about 20 minutes, that'll be the top moment for each. Sal, I'm going to give it to you. What's I guess, number five on your list? Working our way up to number one.
okay, so I'm going to have a hard time like ordering them, but
Okay.
I'm going to start out with the 49ers game, the home opener, 97-yard touchdown from Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson, because that was the moment that I realized, holy shit, Sam Darnold might actually be able to make something happen. I obviously had no clue that it would be anything like what has transpired, but having that deep pass at home for the home opener is when I really started to think like maybe this season isn't going to be all about friendship and bonding. We're going to actually, win some games. So that's where I'm going to start.
Yeah, that's on my list too. It's significantly higher. Although it kind of sounds like you maybe sort of just had these all
Well, it
in
was
one.
chronological. It was like when I came alive from the
Okay.
season.
Okay,
So
that's
that's where
fair.
we'll start the list.
That's fair. All right, Yannick, at the bottom of your list, working away with number one. What is number five on top moments so far, the first 15 games?
I'm gonna start at the very beginning. First preseason game,
Oh,
our first glimpse of JJ McCarthy. I know preseason, no one cares, but we saw JJ McCarthy, and he had that perfect pass to the left side to Tristan Jackson, that his touchdown, his deep touchdown pass. And we thought at that moment, man, this guy is for real. And so I had to include it, preseason or not.
Yeah, that one was electrifying because even though it was preseason, we saw his movement, we saw that he had the arm and the timing for that pass. So I did not include that, but now I feel like an imbecile for not doing it. My number five moment, working away with number one, was the moment, not necessarily the whole game because it got strange, but the moment the Vikings went up 28-0 on the Packers. Justin Jefferson caught the touchdown. Shortly thereafter, Jalen Nailor muffed a punt, and then everything came back down to earth. However, at that time, the Vikings were straight rolling. That was week 4. They were stomping on every opponent, the Packers included. And at that moment, 28-0 at Lambeau. Teams were mostly full strength, although Jordan Love was a little hobbled. I was like, all right, I need to rethink how I feel about this team because I'm the asshole that says these guys are going to be 7-10, and they are a mere hour away from being 4-0 at that point. So you're always excited to win at Lambeau. These past 2 seasons, the Vikings have got out and jumped on the Packers at that building. And that's the only paranoia that I have about this Vikings game is it's tough to beat the Packers twice in one season. That's the only thing that keeps creeping in the back of my mind because I do feel the Vikings are balanced enough to win this. I digress. Sal, number 4 on your list, the top moments of the Vikings 2024 season.
I also had that on my list because, of course, there's nothing better than winning at Lambeau Field. The only thing runner up to that is beating the Packers at home for me. So that's definitely a memorable moment. I feel the same way as you do. I'm going to go with my number 4 is going to be the Cam Bynum and Josh Metellus celebration, the Parent Trap handshake, because that was one of my very favorite movies growing up. And I still to this day love Lindsay Lohan, huge Lindsay Lohan stan. So it was really cool to not only see that in the game, but also see how viral it went. And that, even Lindsay Lohan saw it and they should watch it on the Tonight Show, and just seeing our team get all of this national recognition for something so cool.
Yeah, and that's all thanks to Cam Bynum. That's his brainchild. You were there for that one, weren't you, Janik?
I think so.
That was in London, I believe. Yeah.
So I'm gonna stick to London.
Okay.
My next moment is gonna be Andrew Van Ginkel's pick 6, not the first one, the second one.
Yeah.
You gotta clarify for us. There's too many.
Because it was the second one, so we realized that's not an accident. He can do this. It was against Aaron Rodgers. It was a touchdown. I was there. Everything was perfect. So had to put it on my list.
Yeah, that pick 6, his second in what, 5 weeks at the no 3 no 5 weeks at the time. It really established him as like probably the best value player we have on the Vikings. That's not on a rookie contract. And started to put him, he's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but he is about 6th in line, believe it or not. He and Grenard have the exact same odds to win DPOY, even though they're not going to do it. They're both up there in consideration, right there with Danielle Hunter. My number 4 moment was the moment the Vikings turned the page on the Falcons in the 4th quarter. In my estimation, Janik was sitting right next to me, standing right next to me. It was a touchdown catch by Jordan Addison, and the Vikings went up 35-21. Right when that 4th quarter started, that game was very much at a tipping point. We were 21-21 thinking, all right, well, hopefully they find a way to squeak this one out. And it felt like within moments, it was a blowout. And so for them to do that symbolically against Kirk Cousins' team, who was the quarterback at the time, they could have lost that game and been just fine in the standings, but to beat Cousins' team was the symbolism this franchise needed to say, you know what, you're about a week from having your ass benched, my friend, and we have Sam Darnold who's outplaying you. We made the right decision. You're a great guy, but here we are. We're going to go to the postseason, maybe even get home field advantage. So, and what we identified when the schedule came out was going to be probably the coolest game on the schedule, Cousins versus the Vikings. It turned out to be everything we asked for because they won by 3 scores. That's my number 4. We are at number 3, and we're back to Sal Spice.
We are, and I'm going to have a lot to say about the Falcons game for sure. But I was reflecting on this season, and I find myself that we don't really even talk about the Texans game much anymore because obviously it was a long time ago. But also, so I'm going to go with that game, being able to completely shut out that offense, how dominant the defense was that day. I believe Grenard had 3 sacks. And I don't remember a time we ever shut out a team 34-0 at home. And so it was really cool how loud it was and how all the fans even stayed to the very end, even though it wasn't close. And seeing, Sam Darnold go out for his 1 or 2 plays, whichever it was, when he looked like he was hurt, and how the fan base and the fans reacted to him coming back. I thought that was a really cool moment.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to go to almost every game in that building for the Vikings Sans one when my son was born. And folks were so electric in that game, even when the game was well decided in the 4th quarter. Most of the time, fans have filed out, and it's kind of not a murmur, but it's not quite the juice that you'd have for a close game. And that game from wire to wire was riveting. And so I agree that one was really an indicator of what was to come. That the Vikings were actually good. Texans are still going to the postseason. They haven't looked good lately. They've had a lot of injuries. But when we looked at the schedule last spring, we saw the 49ers and Texans out of the gate, and we're like, oh my, we're going to be 0-5. And then the opposite happened. So that is Sal's number 3. What do you got, Janik, number 3?
My number 3 is, I mean, we talked about it, Justin Jefferson's 97-yard touchdown against the 49ers. Darnold's perfect pass from the end zone, 50, 60 yards, somewhere that range. Double coverage, doesn't matter. It's Justin Jefferson. And then Jalen Naylor came racing and blocked for him. Awesome. Just an awesome touchdown. I think it's still the longest passing touchdown in this season.
Yeah, and there was only one other one in Vikings history that was longer. It was the Bernard Berrien one. Yeah, that one I'm going to give a speech on in about 5 minutes here, so I'll save that. My number 3, and I don't know if you guys are going to have this. We're getting kind of late in the game for this, but let's see. Mine is Parker Romo hitting the game winner at the Chicago Bears. Again, this is another example like the Atlanta game where if they lost, it really wouldn't be that big of a deal because they've been so good before and after. However, that game was vintage Soldier Field shenanigans. The Vikings had a lead, and then every bad scenario you played through your head about if they could find a way to drop. Oh, wait, that happened. Then that happened. The onside kick. Sam Darnold delivered a clutch drive that we're like, oh, he could do this too. And then we just needed a very simple kick from Parker Romo. And at that field, we're always like expecting the worst. So the fact that this guy, Parker Romo, came in and was nearly perfect for 4 games and then delivered a game at Soldier Field, and we were still trying to figure out, are these guys good or not? You lost 2 after the bye week. It was a huge moment, and it really showed that, we've got this kicker thing figured out twofold now because our guy who's on IR, he'll be back soon. But by the way, we have Parker Romo, who is now a New England Patriot. He hit a game winner. It kept this now 8-game winning streak rolling. And I thought I always will look at that game, not from a Vikings fan perspective, but from Parker Romo's perspective. Because here's a team that gave him a shot. They were playing against the Bears, and he hit a kick, and hopefully that propels him to a long-term job either in New England or elsewhere, because the guy absolutely deserves an audition. So Parker Romo beating the Bears on a relatively easy field goal, but in the annals of Vikings history, no field goal in that situation is necessarily easy.
How is he doing, by the way?
I'm going to guess. I haven't. So they have Joey Sly on that team. It's their primary kicker, but he's been struggling, or at least he's missed some really weird kicks in the last 3 weeks. So he's just on the practice squad. I'm hoping he sees the field tomorrow or week 18. That way he can forge a relationship with the Patriots. Because I know we as our Vikings fan base, we love to have the former players that we track and wish him well, but I really want this guy to be good, especially in the AFC. If that son of a bitch can stay over there and be perfect, that would be great. He deserves it. So I guess he's doing well that he has a job. He just doesn't have a regular season gig yet. He's on the practice squad, so we shall see. All right, we're down to
with all issues this year.
Yeah, there are a bunch, and I'm guessing that they won't recommit to Joey Sly no matter what. So I'm hoping that when they get to the offseason, Parker Romo can audition and then take the gig in New England and, be paired up with our guy, Drake May, or end up somewhere else. So, all right, we're down to 2 when we're to you, Sally, and it might be one we've already commented on, but we want the speech regardless.
I'm going to just mix it up because you said the Lambeau Field. So I'm just going to mix it up a little bit here on the fly. I'm going to go with last week, Sunday in Seattle, how Sam Darnold, he had just taken 2 really big hits there in the fourth quarter, getting close to the end of the game. He was even hobbling around a little bit. And I'm thinking, oh my God, is this, this was the first time that I kind of doubted if it was going to happen or not. And the way that he just stepped up in the pocket like that under pressure and threw that ball right to Justin Jefferson and got that touchdown, it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I got very emotional. Actually, I get very emotional about Sam Darnold a lot. Well, we're going to talk about in my number 1 moment. But that was just something that and I don't want to keep bashing on Kirk Cousins, but this is what we have to compare it to in recent history. I'm not confident that Kirk Cousins would have made that same play. And I think the Kirk Cousins, at least that I remember in the front of my mind, would have probably thrown a pick in that moment. And it was just like, wow, it felt like finally got the monkey off the back, won in Seattle after almost 20 years. And this is the guy that could finally do it for us in that fashion. And yeah, I felt really good about that. It was so exciting.
The way that he, in I want to say about 4 games, has been knocked around and has come up hobbled, whether it's ankle or a wrist. He almost has some Stafford qualities where the son of a bitch gets right back up, and we're like, nope, he's gonna be fine. Even the time twice he had to come out of the game, it felt like he was like, nope, 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 I'm getting right back in there. Ain't nobody else gonna take my job. So
yeah, and obviously that play got a ton of national attention, and it was everywhere. But what's missing from the story is the how beat up he got 2 plays in a row there, and was hobbling before he made that play. So it was great. Like I said, get the monkey off the back with Seattle. They also got the monkey off the back with playing a convincing game against the Bears in a primetime game. So two weeks in a row, we changed those narratives.
Yeah, the win in general in Seattle was so cool because I kept thinking, and this will sound probably weird that comes out of the way it comes out of my mouth. We don't need to win all these games. This isn't our humongous big all-in Super Bowl season. This is the beginning of something, a competitive rebuild that has been cooked up over 3 years. So I keep thinking of, hey, if they happen to drop one against the Cardinals, or they lose to the Bears, the world isn't ending, but they keep finding ways to win, and they're doing it in a season when, we weren't supposed to be this good. It just seems like the timetable has been expedited, and it's really fantastic. We will take it. Janik, you're number 2, and then we'll get into the top moment for each of us.
I'm gonna go back to London, to the London game against the Jets. We jumped them early, looked like a blowout, and then the offense just stopped working. Defense allowed a couple of drives. It looked like another Aaron Rodgers comeback win, and it just felt like something Aaron Rodgers would do. It's Aaron Rodgers. He's gonna complete the comeback. And then Stephon Gilmore caught the pick and ended the game. And I thought that moment was really cool because Vikings didn't play well, but they found a way to win it. So I really enjoyed that moment.
And that was significant because that was the first game where, we were wondering when they were going to have their brush with adversity, because everything besides the miniature collapse against the Packers, everything had been smooth sailing, if not outright dominance. The 49ers game was a little close, but none of us were ever too worried that it was in the balance. So I agree with you. I forgot to give my number 2. I don't know if that's what we're at here. Do you have one more after this, Janik?
Technically, but I probably gonna name 2.
Okay, that's all right. All right, so I want to make sure we are on track.
Go ahead.
My number 2 is the 97-yard Jefferson touchdown for all the reasons that you guys hinted at and mentioned. But for me, I knew based on the draft 6 years ago that Sam Darnold had that arm, but I had never personally seen it like in a meaningful piece of action. And so when I saw him, wind up and throw it, you always wonder, all right, is the guy going to have to come back for this? Is it going to turn out just to be a jump ball? But the reason he scored is because the timing was perfect. It had the arm strength. And that was the moment, like Sally said, where I bought into, all right, I know this man has the tools of the 3rd overall pick from the draft 6 years ago. And if he indeed is paired with Kevin O'Connell for, how magical it can be, this can really work. That was the moment I needed to see. It also blew that game open and at least swung the momentum. So I certainly have that on my list. It's number 2. And if I'm doing this correct, I believe, Sally, we're to your top moment. Although if you want to name 2, be our guest.
Yeah, I'll go with my favorite. So my number 1, hands down, a game that I'm going to remember for a really long time. It's the Atlanta game with Sam Darnold with the 5 touchdowns, something that our previous quarterback has never done before. And like you said, it became a blowout at the end, which is something that we as Vikings fans don't really see very often. And to be able to do it against him was just delicious. Not to repeat everything that you said, but it was also just a really great game for me personally. Oh yeah, I wasn't on the show the next week, so I had all this built up that I haven't released. So it was also I actually got there and I got my seats upgraded to the Mystic Lake Casino Suite, which is where there's all the couches.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was sitting on the couches and no one even showed up until like the second quarter. So I had these huge couches all to myself with Derek. And you have all this space in front of you. So we had all of this room to jump around and celebrate. And it was just such a cool moment for me as somebody who has really not agreed with the Kirk Cousins signing from the get-go. And I felt like all of the hate that I got over those 6 years and the criticism and people telling me that you don't know ball and you're a fucking idiot and everything on TikTok and all of that every day that I went through. I just felt very validated. And yeah, it was just a really special moment for me, for me personally, but also for the team that Sam Darnold was able to do that. I know that that must have felt really great for him. You know, we saw him celebrating with the towel and he's usually so stoic. Mm-hmm. So that was a really cool moment too. I just like one of the best, probably like a top 5 day in my life, to be honest.
That was we were chanting MVP for Darnold, and he said he had to do something because he's known for being kind of milquetoast when it comes to, you know, just almost like the type of guy who just hands the football to the ref after a touchdown. That's how he feels like sometimes. So that's why he said he got up and started waving the towel because after a 5 touchdown performance, why the hell not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not joking. I was seriously crying when he got the 5th touch. I was literally crying. I just felt so, I'm so happy for him. I think that's why I get so emotional. I'm so happy for him and his comeback story and how, I mean, I can't imagine how difficult that must have been to go be the laughing stock of the league and the ghosts and everything like that. And then he gets here. Nobody expects anything from him. And it's just, I don't know. I love the story of it in general, but to be against Kirk Cousins, there's nothing sweeter than that.
And think about, Janik and I were talking about this like 2 or 3 days ago. Think about the personal vindication that he has to feel because in high school he knew he was good. In college he knew he was good. And so he had to have at least 6 years of self-doubt that says, God, was I just not good this whole time? I mean, you have to at least think that, although I hope that he always knew that he had the gumption for this. But when he has this season, that's probably why he's so eager to get back in the game. If he, you know, has something tweaked or whatever, is because he doesn't want to lose it. Think about the personal satisfaction, validation, vindication you have to have when you've been labeled a bust, but now you're back.
That's what I think about so often. And I know this is going to sound really, people hate like humanizing athletes. They think, oh, well, they're getting paid X amount of money. I don't feel bad for them. But it has to be a real shock to your system, your psyche, everything. Like you just said, when you grow up your whole life and you are the best at something and everyone you're getting accolades and you're recruited and all of that. And then you just have this huge fall from grace. And it's got to be, I mean, especially you're in a market like New York where you're getting tons of headlines, tons of press coverage, and everyone just thinks that you're a joke, you're a bust. And it's just, yeah, it's exactly like you said. He just has to feel so. It's just such a great story to see. And I so couldn't be happier for him. It also sucks because, you know, when you are put in the situations that he was put in, where he was drafted wasn't set up for success, wasn't set up for success in Carolina. And you know, you can't, as a quarterback or a player in general, you can't come out and say that as your excuse for why you've done poorly. You can't sit there and say like, oh, well, they never drafted an offensive line for me. Oh, I had 4 different offensive coordinators in however many years, or all of those things. You can't justify your performance in that way. So it has to be really difficult to just sit back and take that criticism. So really happy for the guy.
Yeah, likewise. It had to be so befuddling for however many years for him because now we know, and he probably knew all along, like, I can do this. Like, why isn't this translating? And that's why I just think it's such a cool story for him. And then by the way, the Vikings are as a byproduct 13-2. All right, Janik, we are to you. Your favorite moment. We'll get mine, we'll get some predictions, and we'll get out of here.
Okay, so I decided to skip the Atlanta game. Was my favorite game, one of the favorite games I've ever seen, but it was hard to single out one specific moment, so I just skipped it. But I still have 2 more moments. First one, Sam Darnold returning against Houston after his 1 play absence when Daniel Hunter fell on his knee or something. And it was so cool to hear the standing ovations, the crowd going crazy. Must have felt awesome for a guy who's been booed all his NFL career, it feels like. So that was a cool moment. And the next one is definitely last week's dagger against Seattle when he again banged up, stepped up in the pocket, threw up a dime to Justin Jefferson, and got the lead. Just perfect moment.
It was a perfect moment, and that is my top one so far. I'm really hoping we have one that supersedes that in the next month, or let's check the calendar, month and a half. We shall see. But the reason that I loved the Jefferson touchdown from Sam Darnold was, even though Sally and I, we talked about this, we felt oddly broad-shouldered about winning that game, and we were right. It's at Seattle, rainy throughout a lot of the game, in the 3 o'clock window for some reason that's not good for the Vikings. It just felt like in a game dripping with playoff atmosphere that the Vikings totally belonged in it, and then went out and won the damn thing. I'm not really used to. I will get used to it. I already am used. I'm not used to them being expected to thrive in those situations. Hostile buildings, weird time windows that never work out for some reason, on natural grass. Those three factors usually translate to a Vikings L before they even get on the field. That's why we're always so apprehensive about games at Soldier Field, because we know it's going to be weird, quirky, and the teams are going to play down to each other's level. And I don't think we have to feel that way anymore. We shall see how JJ McCarthy maybe translates to the Vikings in these coming years. But just the way that we've turned the page on stinking thinking about the Vikings, hey, they're going to Seattle, they're going to fucking lose that game. We don't have to feel that way anymore. And that touchdown pass by Darnold to Jefferson was proof that this is a new day. We don't have to go piss and moan about 1998. We don't have to say, oh, the Vikings are going to find a way. This is a trap game. They're going to lose it. We don't have to feel that way anymore, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's the biggest difference in this team than the ones that we've loved our entire life, that we have gotten to the NFC Championship and then have failed in some way. This team is just that they don't have those quirks to them that the other ones had. Like you mentioned, Soldier Field. The kicker we've talked about a lot. It isn't the same, thorn in your ass that it usually is. Seattle, 20 years. It's just the consistency, how stable the team seems in general, that like mentioned the Seattle game and like the Cardinals game, I felt like, oh my God, they scored too quick when they were coming back, because in both of those games, the defense gave up a lot of yards that we obviously weren't happy about. And then that they did score as quickly as they did, there was as much time on the clock as there was. And then when it mattered the most, the defense showed up and ended the game. It's just really cool how you don't even have to worry about that stuff. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, we're markedly ahead of schedule. And you have the picture in your on your wall there of Stephon Diggs and the Minneapolis Miracle. That was an example. The reason that what felt so exhilarating and still does is because the Vikings did exactly what we're accustomed to them doing. They found a way to monkey up a good would-be victory against the Saints, but because of the last second miracle, they salvaged the bad part of what they usually do. And so this year, although it's a huge request to say, hey, go win the Super Bowl, it feels like they have the blueprint and the DNA to not even get in those we need an absolute miracle situations, because we're already just flat out solid and balanced. Sal, you're holding up the candle. Did you have something to say?
No, I just forgot that it was here, and you mentioned my decor, so I was reminded that it's here and it's lit. So no, I didn't have anything to say. I just wanted to give him his recognition.
Oh, and he deserves it. All right. I will reiterate, the only thing at all I worry about there's two things. The Packers are a really good football team. We talk about how balanced we are. Well, close your ears. So are they. It's tough to beat the Packers twice. The Vikings haven't done it since 2017. Even then, it was, I think, Brett Hundley special at Lambeau Field on Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve. Nevertheless, I'm not going to be the guy that picks the Packers. I think the Vikings will win 24-21, a Will Reichert game-winning field goal. Janik, what do you got for a prediction?
I'm gonna pick 24-20 Minnesota, but I gotta say it's the first game in over a month I'm somewhat concerned about
Yeah.
because Green Bay is just so damn good. Not because some ghosts we have to beat from the past and scared of someone missing a field goal, or just when we have to have it, we just fall on the mouth. Nothing like that. It's just Green Bay is a good football team, and it's hard to beat them, especially twice, like you said.
Yep, unfortunately, this division is just stacked and they're right there with us. In fact,
Yeah.
their record is good enough in many years NFC North past where they could just lead the NFC North and we'd be nibbling at some shit like 8-8. And the Lions, of course, would be 4-12. But we're in a brave new world. Sally, your prediction.
Well, I also think a big difference in this team and the Packers teams that we have faced in the past for as long as I can remember, this team really focuses on the run a lot. It's
Yeah.
not always a pass first offense. And so that's something that's very new coming to US Bank Stadium, at least for what we're accustomed to. I that does concern me. I think that they need to take the run game away from them early by getting a lead, hopefully, so that they can't depend on Jacobs like that. I feel the same way as you guys. I'm very apprehensive. This is going to be their toughest opponent yet, potentially. I think it's definitely the biggest test. And I'm going to predict a win. I don't feel right going under 30 points for this team. So I'm going to say 30. I think it will be close. I hope it won't be a kick, but I'll say 30-27 just for how it's going to be close. Oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, this game means so much. Obviously, the things we've already mentioned, but mentally, is it the moment gonna be too big for them where they know everything is on the line? The most recent NFC Championship games, 2017, 2009, they lost control of their own destiny,
Yeah.
even though they were great teams.
Mhm.
This one has the chance at this late in the season to secure home field advantage. Next week doesn't even matter for home field advantage if they don't win this game. So it will be really interesting to see how mentally prepared this team is and if they do have the mental strength that we have talked about the last month and a half that we believe they have.
In theory, if the Vikings lost, then we would immediately become 49ers fans for Monday Night Football. In the off chance they beat the Lions, we could renew Week 18 being a big deal for home field advantage, although we would need the Eagles to lose a game, which who knows with Kenny Pickett playing. And I will tell you, if the Vikings beat the Packers Sunday, this following week is going to feel like the playoffs. There's just no other way around it. We'll be ramping up. A couple other odd factoids to round out the show. TJ Hawkinson has never played a game against the Packers in US Bank Stadium. It feels weird, but it's true. The Vikings have not played a full game against the Packers with their starting quarterback, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson. We almost did, but then Kirk got hurt last year. And then another one to close your eyes or plug your ears. There is a world where this is Harrison Smith's final game at US Bank Stadium. I want to get everybody kind of thinking about that only so that when his name is introduced during pregame intros, you cheer as if it is his final.
I was actually thinking about breaking out my Harrison Smith jersey. I don't think it's seen the light of day in at least 3-4 years. So I think that I should do that for him and maybe go bust it out. We'll see. I don't know what size it is. I don't know anything about it anymore, but I think it's a women's size. So
yeah,
you could. And I don't really wear jerseys anymore, but I think this is a special occasion.
yeah. And then Janik, are you wearing your Dobbsy?
Oh yeah, of course.
That's how we channel the magic. And I will be wearing my season-long Kyrie Jackson homage. Every single game I've been to, I've worn that jersey. So, all right, group, why don't we do this again? It sounds like Sal enjoys the Friday night window, so we can perhaps finagle that as rather than the typical morning window. But Sal, anything else before we log off for the weekend?
No, I can't remember the last time I was this excited for a game. It's been a really long time, and I just can't wait to see how loud the bank is or hear how loud the bank is and see how serious this team really is. It's going to be a late night. Let me say, for anyone who's not going to the game, because you guys obviously haven't been watching the ticket market, but it's $420 before fees right now to even get in the door. So I found out 4 hours ago I was going to the game, but I'm still going to have the TV and everything set up for anyone who wants to just come down and take in the atmosphere that's going to be going on in the tailgate lots and everything. And you're more than welcome to watch the game at my car if you want to. And it's going to be a late night if the Vikings win this game over the Packers. So we would love to see you and celebrate.
I always tell Janik on the 4-hour drive home from Minneapolis to my house, it's either going to be fantastic when they win or it's just a piece of shit drive when they lose, especially one like this. You can't get out of your own thoughts for 4 hours. Trust me, I've had to do it multiple times. Janik, before we log off, anything you got to get off your chest?
Not really. Just really looking forward to the game. Gonna be a big one, and hopefully with the right result.
Yeah, hopefully a dub. All right, Sally, we'll talk to you in about 1 week. We'll iron out the time. That's all we got. Skol, baby.
Let's go.
Later.